Hello, YouTube. Welcome back to another episode of Game News Roundup. I've actually been chatting with chat on Twitch for close to an hour, half hour, 45 minutes at this point. But shall we get into the latest gaming news? Starting with, of course, VGChartz estimates for the week ending 23rd July 2020. Sales are pretty much up across the board. Switch just a hair over 300,000 to PS5 265,000 units sold. Xbox Series X and S 191,000 units sold. Am I gonna make a title PS4 tops under 17 million? When it does, the only thing is Sony did not release any figures for the PS4, which makes me seem like it might be discontinued. 117 million might be its max. But we'll know in 3 months if they're all of a sudden like, oh, it actually sold equivalent to get a little bit higher. Or if they actually finally when they update this page here, then we'll know for sure. Just they haven't updated with the latest figures on here yet. Which is odd, because usually they do pretty much right away when they release their earnings report, but they didn't this time. But we'll get into this. So yeah, this is a quarter out of date. They did release their quarterly earnings or figures for through June 30th, 2022. But yeah, sell-through lifetime estimates. We got the Switch at 110.71 million as of July 23rd. PS5 at 21.61 million sell-through, sold to consumers. Yes, I know some people like Sony announced 21.7 million for the PS5 at the end of June. Yes, but it is shipped. And usually there's a bit of a 3, 4, 5 week delay depending on where it's being shipped to. Consoles, they're manufactured in Asia, and yeah, sure, shipping them across Asia, it doesn't take that long. But shipping them to the US, Europe, UK, Latin America, etc. could take several weeks. And plus, we do match when Sony announced the PS5 sell-through, sold to consumers hitting 20 million at the beginning of June. So really, it's just that 1 month difference between that June, and then we've got now as of July 23rd again 21.61 million, which is 3 weeks after Sony's 21.7 million shipped. So we're talking, with our estimates, it's probably about a 3.5 week or so difference between shipped and then finally being sold and whatnot. And then we got the Series X and S, a hair under 16 million sold worldwide. Again, as of July 23rd. And then moving on to the actual article itself. PS5 sales are up quite a bit compared to the same week for the PlayStation 4. Up nearly 85,000 units. Which is quite a bit. It's been consistently down, but all our data show was a really good week for PS5 sales. Because there was a huge GameStop drop. And then we saw a lot of charts, software charts and UK charts and stuff are like, oh wow, Horizon Forbidden West, which there's a PS5 bundle now. All of a sudden it's just like, oh, okay, that game just shot up to the first on the charts, clearly showing that there was a lot of PlayStation 5s bundled with the game, which Chris Dring at Games Industry, I'm sure I mispronounced his name, I do apologize, but did say yes, the game sales increased 120% week on week due to the PS5 bundle. And then we saw a bunch of other charts showing a similar thing across Europe of the game shooting up. So yeah, PS5 compared to PS4 finally is up quite a bit. It's still behind, it's going to be a while. Even Sony said, yeah, the PS5 is falling behind the PS4, but hoping once the stock shortages get solved, they're expecting it to eventually catch up to PS4 and surpass it, according to their forecasts. And Xbox Series X and S are up almost 113,000 units compared to the Xbox One. So overall, it's pretty good week. Let's see. And then week-on-week sales. Switch sales are down about nearly 3,000 units, but obviously, it's still pretty good. 300,000 estimated sales, and PS5 sales are up nearly 46,000 units based on the data we showed. Mainly in Europe, and a little bit of an uptick a decent uptick in the US, but not quite as much as in Europe. And the Xbox Series X and S sales are up nearly 11,000 units. And 2022 sales year-to-date estimate, 8.83 million for the Switch, 4.64 million for the PS5, and 4.33 million for the Series X and S. And then breaking down, again, for the week ending July 23rd. In the Americas, Switch, PS5, and Series X and S all basically within 10,000 units of each other. So, good week overall. The little bit of data I have for last week, or the last week of July, there wasn't nearly as much stock for PS5 or Series X. So there will be a bit of a drop. PS4, 4,200, and Xbox One, 350. Again, PS4, now that we had really no update with Sony, is looking like this is about it for the PS4. It's about it. I mean, the thing is, PS4 could have sold probably another 5 or 10 million. I wouldn't be surprised if Sony had, maybe dropped the price a little and shipped enough units, but they wanted more focus on the PS5. I mean, you can say the same with other, manufacturers have done similar things. Could have sold more, but they quickly shifted to the new console. Because you look at, the PS2 sold a lot after the PS3 came out. I mean, there were different reasons. One, the PS2 was, $100 at that point, and the PS3 was 500 and 600. So it had a very slow start, the PS3. So PS2 sales kept strong for a good while. In Europe, PS5 topped 100,000 units estimated sold. Switch, 77,000. Series X and S, 55,000. And PS4 and Xbox One, well, dwindling. Xbox, I mean, it's looking like this will be it for our VGChartz doing estimates for definitely Xbox One, 100%. Even if there's a little bit left, I'm gonna stop tracking Xbox One at the end of the year. And PS4, unless Sony, actually gives us more updates, this might be it for PS4 for our estimates as well. And then Asia, which, Japan, mainland Asia, China being the big one. Middle East sales, 96,000 for the Switch, 37,000 for the PS5, 23,000 for the Series X and S. And then, PS4 and Xbox One dwindling. Oceania, which is Australia, plus New Zealand, our estimates, which I'll admit, this is one of the places we don't get nearly as much data as other places. So these are a little bit rougher of estimates. But we got Switch a little over 12,000, PS5 almost 8,500, Series X and S 6,600. But these are based on the data we have available to us for July 23rd. And now that we're getting into August, hopefully next week, we'll be getting the UK and Europe breakdowns at games industry. That will hopefully then I can tweak our estimates for July. But moving on, again, Sony did announce 21.7 million PS5 shipped, which means there are 2.4 million PS5 shipped for the quarter. This is for the quarter, so April, May, and June, which is actually which is a good sign. It's actually up 100,000 over the same quarter a year ago, which, considering how much down it was in the January to March quarter, it was 2 million versus 3. Actually, we can go in here real quick. 2 million versus 3.3 million. So January to March this year, Sony only shipped 2 million PS5s, which is down from 3.3 million the same quarter year before. But this past quarter, even though they haven't updated yet, 2.4 million for the fiscal year 2022 Q1, April to June, 2.4 million versus 2.3 million. So you know what? That's a good sign. It's starting to uptick. So hopefully from here on out, we'll see an uptick. And the biggest issue last year was that there was not really much of an uptick for the holiday quarter. Considering they had said, I forget what their exact forecast was, but it was like 5 million, something like that for the quarter. 6 million. It was they missed it by quite a bit. Again, shortages are really hurting them more than the others. Series S, easier to manufacture, and the Switch even easier than that. And then we've got, for reference, the PS4 for its same equivalent quarter had shipped 2.9 million. To bring the total up to 25.3 million PS4s shipped. Mind you, shipment-wise, PS5 versus PS4. PS5 is behind the PS4 by 3.6 million shipment-wise. But mind you, again, PS4 wasn't selling out. Stock was readily available for the PS4, while the PS5 stock becomes available but sells out relatively quickly. So the actual gap of sell-through is a bit less than 3.6 million. Which actually, hold on, I might as well PS5, because I did actually update this from the last time. Come on, VGChartz, you can load faster than that. All right, let's go back there. Because we actually have an actual difference. Instead of 3.6 million, our sell-through difference is 2.86 million. So obviously you can see here up above PS5 ahead of PS4, but then after that, it's PS4 in the lead. But hopefully Sony's able to improve manufacturing and get the sales back up. But it's early on. I have a feeling this generation is going to be longer. It's going to be one of the longest generations. I'm expecting it to last a year, 2 years longer. Instead of, between the Xbox One, PS4 to the PS5 and the Series X and S was 7 years release time. I'm expecting 8 or 9. I'm expecting 8 or 9 years. Obviously, who knows? Things could change. You never know how things are going to be, but I'm expecting 8 or 9 year generation between now and the actual next gen comes out. So, again, Sony did not actually release any new PS4 figures. That could be it. That might be it. Not 100% sure, but we do know 117 million of PS4s have been shipped the end of March 2022. And they announced 47.1 million games were sold for the PS5 and PS4 for the quarter, which is down 16.5 million compared to the same period a year earlier. And digital sales on the PS5 and PS4 at 79%, which is even higher than I was expecting, because I think it's up from like 71% the year before. Did they have... Trying to think. I think the actual earnings report, they did release those figures, but anyways. First-party sales on the PS5 and PS4 were 6.4 million, which is down 4.1 million from the same quarter a year ago at 10.5 million. Mind you, Q1 this year, we did see Horizon Forbidden West and Gran Turismo 7 come out in February and March of this year, I want to say. And this quarter covers April, May, and June. So, and I want to say, did they release MLB The Show? I think as well. But mind you, this specifically states PS5 and PS4. It doesn't include MLB The Show, which is also available on the Xbox and the Switch. And it also doesn't include the PlayStation games that have also come out on PC. Like God of War came out in January. And then, Horizon Zero Dawn, and a few others. PlayStation Plus subscribers at 47.3 million. Which is actually up 1 million year over year. And this quarter, towards the end of the quarter, they did release the new PlayStation Plus subscription service, which basically combines PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now into a single service. The base tier is basically what, if you have PlayStation Plus, its base tier is the same thing. The higher tiers are basically kind of what you have with PlayStation Now. Although, there are, as far as I'm aware, there's no games coming out at day one on PlayStation Plus or any of even the higher tiers. At least first-party games, like there is on Game Pass. Sony's Game Network Services division for the quarter, revenue decreased 11.7% year over year, and operating income decreased 30.5% year over year. Which Microsoft, same thing, announced a drop in Xbox sales year over year. Which I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo, when they release their figures this Wednesday, probably will be this. I would expect a similar single-digit drop, potentially, maybe 10%. But we'll see. But Sony did say the year-over-year decrease was attributed to lower first-party and third-party sales, as well as DLC. And Sony made no changes to its forecast, so they're still expecting to ship 18 million PS5s from April 2022 to March 2023. Mind you, for the previous fiscal year, they shipped 11.5 million. They're going to really have to start ramping things up if they're going to hit their 18 million forecast. Because 11.5 million, 18 million, okay, do the math, that's 6.5 million difference. And in the first quarter, they're only up 100,000. But the biggest question is holiday quarter. If they're able to get the shipments up, sure, they could still hit it. But it depends on the supply chain. That's the big question mark. Sony can't control it. There's limited supply. Although now with the crypto crash, GPU prices have also come down to absurd to, okay, that's fine. So hopefully we're seeing improvements across the board. And Valve, I'll get into that in a minute. Valve did say they're able to manufacture more Steam Decks than previously expected. So, and they forecast for their earnings, they did expect slightly lower than they did 3 months ago, mainly due to lower expected third-party game sales and DLC sales, revenue and income. But they're still expecting to make profit. This is the big thing. Let's see. Microsoft CEO, when they released their earnings report, Satya Nadella, has stated the Xbox Series X and S continues, which our estimates show the same thing. The Xbox Series X and S is still the fastest selling Xbox generation, as it is still tracking ahead of the Xbox One, the 360, and the OG Xbox. Mind you, if anyone remembers the 360, it got a big boost late in life due to the Kinect for a couple holidays. He also said the Xbox Series X and S has been the market leader in the next generation market in North America for 3 straight quarters. So that likely means the Switch is still selling more, but since he specifically said next generation, basically it comes down to the Xbox Series X and S has also the PS5 in North America specifically, which is definitely US and Canada, and I would assume includes like Mexico and Central America. Xbox Series X and S has been ahead of the PS5 for 3 straight quarters. But just North America. Obviously, if it was ahead worldwide, he would have said it. Or if it was ahead of the Switch, he would have not said next generation. You gotta see exactly how they word things. But yeah, his direct quote: "In gaming, we've sold more consoles live to date than any previous generation of Xbox, and have been the market leader in North America for 3 quarters in a row among next-gen consoles." So, yeah. This basically means the Xbox Series X and S sold more than the PS5 in North America for the quarters ending December 2021, March 2022, and June 2022. Let's see. And moving on, Sony, which to hit their forecast would make sense. They're working to up their PS5 supply for the holidays. In their earnings report, they said, "At this point in time, we have made no change to our 18 million forecast. But since we are seeing a recovery from the impact of the lockdown in Shanghai and a significant improvement in the supply of components, we are working to bring forward more supply into the year-end holiday selling season." So hopefully we'll be seeing a nice uptick in sales for the PS5 this holiday. And I would assume that also goes to the Series X and S. Well, especially X, I should say, because Series S is readily available. So, hopefully. So if you're trying to get a PS5 or Series X, hopefully by the holiday season you'll be able to get it. So hopefully by the time, God of War comes out. That's the game everyone's really hyped for sure. And then sales comparisons through June. We have the Xbox Series X and S versus the 360. Launch aligned has been basically almost every month growing its lead. Some months shrunk a bit, but consistently almost. And it's now over for the first time. Looking at our estimates, it's over 5 million ahead of the 360. But yeah, you got Series X and S up here, 360 down there, which is good. So, I'm hoping we're going to see record-setting sales by the end of the generation across the board. The Switch might become the best-selling console of all time. PS5 could still reach and maybe even surpass the PS4 lifetime, although I'm not expecting it to hit PS2 sales. And then Xbox Series X and S could be the best-selling Xbox console of all time, surpassing the 360's 86 million sell-through. And maybe it could hit 100 million, with the stronger first-party lineup, the stronger Game Pass. But obviously, they are releasing their games on PC day one. And obviously, if you've got strong enough internet or whatever, you can play them on your phone now. And if you have a 2022 Samsung television, you can use Xbox Cloud Gaming on your Samsung television. If you've got one from this year. Then I'm expecting it to come out some more consoles. I think all you need is a controller, an Xbox controller. A DualSense controller will work. Any Bluetooth controller, I'm pretty sure, will work. So, yeah, Series X and S tracking ahead of the 360. And then US sales, we got PS5 versus Series X and S. Through June, in the United States, PS5 at one point peaked at just about 1.25 million ahead. And then since then, the Series X and S most months has closed the gap. Of last month in June, PS5 did sell a little bit more than the Series X and S, based on the data we saw. So they're practically neck and neck. It's just under 500,000 or so difference between the two. So yeah, PS5, 7.67 million estimated sales, and Series X and S, 7.2 million estimated. Although they are both tracking behind the PS4 and actually Xbox. Even though the Series X and S is the fastest selling Xbox generation of all time, it's mainly due to an uptick outside of the US in a lot of smaller markets. Because the Series S, again, it's $300 versus $500 for the Series X or the PS5. Same price as the Switch. And then with Game Pass, so people who have issues with money, they get what they can afford. But yeah, PS5 is tracking almost 600,000 behind the PS4 in the US. The launch line in the Series X and S is behind the Xbox One by a little over 330,000 units. Estimated, of course, you know. And then this gen versus last gen. So PS5 and Xbox Series and X sales combined versus the PS4 and Xbox One sales combined are practically neck and neck. Yes, the PS5 and Series X and S did get a good head start, but then with the less stock being available in the holiday for both consoles, yeah, the whole generation really was able to catch up and actually is a bit ahead at the moment. Above this line, PS5 and Series X and S are in the lead. Below this line, here below zero, 8th gen, PS4 and Xbox One is in the lead, which also whoever suggested to make this, the arrows and the up and down, thank you. It looks so much better. It's easier to read. I like to take suggestions of making things easy to read, improvements, or anything, in which also one thing, I did see a suggestion. I will be adding it as long as I remember. For the next time I do this article here, I'll add the PS3 and 360 sales line into these two charts, even if they'd be mainly against the PS4 and Xbox One when it comes to the actual text itself in the article. But I'll add the PS3 and 360 to this as well, so you can see how the three generations stack up, and the three generations that VGChartz actually has. Excuse me. Estimated sales. Because before that was before VGChartz existed, and we didn't do PS2, OG Xbox, GameCube, and older estimates. So that is it really for the gaming news specifically. But we can take a quick look. Sorry, gaming sales stuff, I should say more specifically, with VGChartz and whatnot. Activision Blizzard monthly active users dropped 11 million compared to the previous quarter. Blizzard did see a gain of 5 million, from 22 million to 27 million monthly active users for the quarter. Activision dropped below 100 million for the first time in a few years. I'm going to say 2019. 100 million down to 94 million. And King decreased from 250 million active users to 240 million monthly active users. It was your suggestion. Yeah, it was. Yeah, you're right, yo. It was your suggestion. I will be adding that next month, as long as I remember. Yeah, I might forget. We'll say my memory's not always the best. But yeah, overall, Activision Blizzard had 300. Activision Blizzard had 300. I really should try to talk a little slower. Slow things down. Activision Blizzard saw 372 million monthly active users, which is a drop. Sorry. Words. I know what I'm doing. 372 million from the previous quarter for March, and then dropped to 361 million in the June quarter. There we go. I know how this works. Activision Blizzard reported net revenue dropped from 2.3 billion to 1.6 billion. And net income decreased quite a bit. I mean, that's the profits, basically, from 876 million in profits to 280 million. Yeah, some of us don't understand numbers. Yeah, it's like I write this stuff up, and then I go to read it later, I'm like, wait. It made sense when I wrote it. When I wrote it, I swear. Yeah, numbers. A lot of numbers with my job. A lot of numbers. It's like, oof. And I have things written down because, yeah, for good reasons. Diablo Immortal, top 30 million downloads. I mean, it is free. It is a free download, so, you know. It is quintessential pay to win from what I've heard. I haven't played it, but from what I've heard, not the best. Xbox Cloud Gaming hourly users is up 1,800% in the last year. 1,800% increase. I mean, we don't know what the numbers were a year ago, so the numbers could have been really low a year ago. I mean, I'm not surprised it's gone up this much, because they've really expanded their cloud gaming over the last year. And also because Fortnite is available for free for Xbox Cloud Gaming. So you just log in, Xbox Cloud Gaming on the phone, and you can play Fortnite for free. You don't have to pay for Game Pass Ultimate in order to get access to Fortnite. Anything else, yes, you have to have Game Pass Ultimate to get access to cloud gaming content, minus Fortnite. Let's see. Sony did respond. This came out with Microsoft working on acquiring Activision Blizzard. They have to go through a lot of regulatory governments and bodies, across the world. In any place Activision Blizzard has a studio based, I'm assuming, is where they have to look. And Brazil actually released a lot of information. Most, I think it's the first time I've seen this much out. So we got Sony's. Most of the companies were kind of like, meh, who cares? Whatever. It's not going to affect us. Apple didn't seem to care, which was surprising, right? Google was like, Amazon, Ubisoft, whatever. But Sony, I mean, I understand why Sony would be the one who's the most against Microsoft acquiring Activision Blizzard, because Call of Duty is one of the biggest IPs in gaming, So. So with this, we are getting sort of continuation of the PS4 and Xbox One and PS3. Yes, that is actually, you're right. You are right on that. Even though, PS4 and Xbox One, pretty much dead, and I expect our PS4 estimates to be dropping quite a bit. Since Sony didn't release any updates, I don't want to go above 117 million with our estimates. Because we get very little data with the old consoles. The new consoles, we get more data available. It's a bit annoying, but, it is what it is. I do the best I can with the data I do get. But Sony. So Brazil regulatory body asked several questions to a bunch of gaming companies. Sony. Sony says Call of Duty is an important IP for PlayStation and is a franchise that influences users' consoles choice. So they're basically saying if Call of Duty became Xbox, and PC exclusive, right? And cloud gaming, basically it would just not be on PlayStation. If that were to happen, millions of Call of Duty gamers who play on PlayStation might swap and get an Xbox instead, or PC. Call of Duty, it is an essential game, a blockbuster, a AAA type game that has no rival, which is true. If you look at the best-selling game every year, it's Call of Duty, except for 2 years. At least looking at NPD, which is U.S. sales. In 2013, GTA 5 outsold the Call of Duty of that year, and then in 2017 or 18, I forget exactly which year, but when Red Dead Redemption 2 came out, that outsold Call of Duty for that year. And that was it. Those are the only 2 times Call of Duty was not the number 1 selling game in the United States. Which is a bit crazy, But according to a 2019 study, the importance of Call of Duty to entertainment in general is indescribable. This is what Sony said. The brand was the only video game IP to break into the top 10 of all entertainment brands among fans, joining powerhouses such as Star Wars, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, and Lord of the Rings. And I would assume Marvel, which is probably number 1 right now, or at least it was. But Call of Duty is so popular that it influences users' choice of console, and its community of loyal users is entrenched enough that even if a competitor had the budget to develop a similar product, it would not be able to rival it, just because it's been so entrenched. So many people play every year Call of Duty, even though, mind you, Call of Duty Vanguard sales were down like a third compared to previous Call of Duty, yet it was still one of the best-selling games. Sony explained each Call of Duty game takes 3 to 5 years to develop, and Activision is able to release a new entry every year because they invest hundreds of millions of dollars to develop them. Approximately 1,200 people work on each version, and another 1,500 involved in publishing and distribution, according to Sony. Thus, Call of Duty alone has more developers than most game companies. I think more people work on Call of Duty than all of Xbox's Xbox Game Studios first party, because technically Bethesda and ZeniMax are part of Xbox, but they're still kind of separate. They're kind of their own 2 wings, even though they're both under Phil Spencer. ZeniMax and Bethesda still being able to be autonomous and do what they want to do. This was a previous report. Activision looking to plan recruit 2,000 more developers in 2021. And Activision probably, this is according to Sony, Activision probably expects COD to become even more successful in the future. We'll see. But obviously, you also have Call of Duty Warzone, the Battle Royale game. No other developer can devote the same level of resources and expertise in game development. Even if they could do that, COD is overly entrenched so that no rival, no matter how relevant they are, can actually catch up. Sony COD is synonymous with first-person shooter games and essentially defines that category. This is also demonstrated by player engagement on social media. COD has over 24 million followers on Facebook versus 7 million for Battlefield, which you can kind of say is a rival to COD, but obviously not nearly as popular. and over 12 million followers on Instagram versus 2 million for Battlefield. So yeah, COD definitely by far the biggest first-person shooter franchise and one of the biggest franchises in gaming. Sony added to say the least, players would be unlikely to switch to alternative games as they would lose that familiarity. Referring to like if a COD player is on PlayStation wants to stick to PlayStation, if COD leaves PlayStation, that they're unlikely to swap, I think is what they're trying to say. Even in weaker years like 2021, COD still managed to outperform most other games by a considerable margin. Vanguard, for example, was widely regarded as weaker than previous year's titles, but still one of the best-selling games of 2021. In other words, even in a bad year, players remain loyal to the brand and continue to buy the game. It's true. Although we might see Elden Ring sell this year's Call of Duty. Of course, Elden Ring has had pretty much 12 months to sell versus Call of Duty, which is 2 months, 3 months. And also in the same report, Sony's discussing Game Pass. Which is interesting that Sony specifically said this, which means they don't consider PlayStation Network a rival to Game Pass. Sony has said over the past 5 years, Xbox Game Pass has grown to capture around 60 to 70% of the worldwide subscription services market, clearly for gaming. And Xbox Game Pass in Brazil represents 70 to 80% of the PC subscription service market. Sony believes it would take several years for a competitor to create a true rival to Game Pass, even with substantial investment. Sony said subscription services can compete with game purchase for a one-time fee, but thanks, the lowest upfront cost of subscription services might be considered anti-competitive. This is in comparison to publishers who recoup investments in games by selling them for an upfront cost. And they also feel subscription services could harm the consumers by reducing, this is what they're claiming, to reduce the quality of games. Well, I wouldn't say that's the case. I mean, we'll see, when Starfield comes out. I mean, it looks fantastic from what I've seen. That's the big question mark. I mean, Forza Horizon 5 is still good. But, yeah. And welcome back, Ness. So, this is what Sony is saying when they are questioned by Brazil regulatory body about Microsoft acquiring Activision Blizzard. So, let's see. Anything else? Pokemon Presents. Yep, Pokemon Company. This Wednesday is holding a PlayStation. Jeez. Words, man. Words are tough. A Pokemon Presents this Wednesday. Gonna provide an update on Pokemon Scarlet and Violet as well as other Pokemon apps and video games. And Pokemon Scarlet Violet is coming out November 18th. My goodness. Words, man. Words are hard. Let's see. Grounded will be leaving early access and officially launching on September 27th. For Xbox Series X and Xbox One, PC, on Steam, Microsoft Store, and Xbox Game Pass. Hey, Goose. How you doing? So yeah, Grounded official 1.0 release September 27th. But of course, it is still available to play, in early access. Valve. Words. What are words and how do you use them? That is a good question. I don't know. That is a very good question. Valve. They announced they're able to produce more Steam Decks faster than they anticipated as supply chain issues are improving. We're excited to announce that we're going to be able to fulfill demand sooner than we had estimated for everyone in the reservation queue, reads the update from Valve. Many of the supply chain shortfalls that affect Steam Deck are gradually clearing up, and we're continuing to ramp up production, so we're able to produce more decks faster than ever before. As of today, we've updated the reservation window, and everyone who's currently in the reservation queue will get their Steam Deck email this year. Many customers who were in the Q4 or later window have been bumped up to Q3, July to September window, and everyone else is now solidly in the Q4, October, November, December window. As of this moment, new reservations will be in the quarter. So if you were to reserve a Steam Deck right now, you'll get it by the end of the year. Looking at what Valve is saying. But if these queues fill up, it will flip over into the following quarter. So yeah, if a lot of people reserve one, pre-order one, it could move into next year. We're happy we'll be able to get Steam Decks into your hands faster than we had estimated, and it has been great to see all the positive feedback impressions and amazing things you all have already been doing with your Steam Decks. We can't wait to see even more in the coming months. Yes, that's good. For anyone who wants a Steam Deck, you'll get it sooner if you don't have one yet. And if anyone, I have been asked this before, can we track Steam Deck sales? No. Valve is the only place that sells them. And Valve doesn't release any data for Steam Deck. If they did, sure, I would at least write an article whenever they gave us actual sales figures for the Steam Deck, but they haven't. Or if they actually release figures every year, yeah, maybe I would do worldwide figures. But, I mean, I have no idea what the numbers are. It could be a few hundred a week. It could be a few thousand a week. It could be tens of thousands every week. I have no idea. Valve doesn't release any of this information. And I have no way of accessing it. I don't have any insiders at Valve to get this data, you know? Yeah. Yeah, if Valve ever releases any figures, yes, I will write them up. Don't worry. I will write articles on that. We've got, of course, the cold console war thing. And, yeah. The former Xbox executive, Peter Moore, yeah. Let's say he encouraged console wars. It's a challenge. PlayStation and Xbox. Yeah, I'm not totally surprised. Mind you, he worked at Xbox from 2003 to 2007. We're talking 15 or more years ago. We encourage the console wars not to create division, but to challenge each other. This is what's said more. And when I say each other, I mean Microsoft and Sony, so PlayStation and Xbox. If Microsoft hadn't stuck the course after the Xbox, after the red rings of death, gaming would be a poorer place for it. You wouldn't have the competition you have today. Oh yeah, considering, I mean, there's that, and there's also the terrible Xbox One launch, and the very little investments from Microsoft into Xbox for many years. And then, I don't know, the Switch happened, and then Xbox's first party, as you've seen, has grown from about 5 studios to, I think it's going to be in the 30s once Activision Blizzard deal closes. It's currently like 23, 24, I think, right now. 25, somewhere around there. So, you know, competition is good. The stronger the competition, the more both companies are going to work to make better games, release better games, higher quality, drive down prices, increase profits, you know. Let's see. Talked about that. Warhammer 40,000. Darktide has been delayed. It was supposed to come out on September 13th, but the PC version was now coming out November 30th on Steam, while the Xbox Series X and S version actually will be coming out shortly after. They were supposed to come out at the same time, but it has now been delayed, but even more so on the Xbox. But it says shortly after, so maybe a month later, a couple months later. You know, again, I'd rather a game be delayed and then release in a broken mess or have really bad bugs or whatnot. I'd rather a game be delayed and be better for it than a game and be rushed to market. We've seen what happens when games get rushed to market. Goat Simulator 3 launches November 17th. If you're wondering, where happened to Ghost Simulator 2? Well, it doesn't exist. They decided to be funny, the developers, and go from 1 to 3. Just jump over the number 2. But yeah, it comes out November 17th, PS5, Series X and S, and PC on the Epic Game Store. Diablo Immortal. On mobile, iOS, and Android, excluding the PC version, has topped $100 million in revenue based on, Sensor Tower Store Intelligent Data. Yeah, Sensor Tower, which tracks revenue and whatnot and player count for mobile games. If you see here, weeks to earn $100 million in revenue. Pokemon Go, number 1 by far, 2 weeks. Diablo Immortal is actually second place in 8 weeks to reach $100 million in revenue. Fire Emblem Heroes, 10 weeks. Fortnite, 12 weeks. Final Fantasy 15 A New Empire, 22 weeks. Let's see. August 2022, Games with Gold. It is quite, it's been pretty meh for a long time. But Games with Gold, we have Calico, Scourgebringer, Saints Row 2, and Monaco, What's Yours Is Mine. For Games with Gold. If you have Xbox Live Gold, these games will be available for free. Right now, Calico and Saints Row 2 are available right now. And then in the middle of the month, Scourgebringer and Monaco will be available. And I think, is it in a couple months, there'll be no more 360 games with Gold? They apparently have reached the end of that limit. Though they haven't announced if they're just going down to just 2 games or if they're going to have 4 Xbox One games. I'm not sure. Sony, a new PlayStation 5 system beta. So if you have access to the PS5 system software betas, the latest beta has added 1440p support and game lists. So if you've been wanting 1440p, you know have that, which is good for me. Which would be good for me because I do have a 1440p monitor. Beta access is limited to US, Canada, Japan, UK, Germany, and France. Which I guess basically would say is the biggest markets for, well, in gaming, more or less, right there. So yeah, 1440p, it will be available. Let's see. PlayStation Plus games for 2022. Which is basically equivalent to the games with gold. So if you're the base tier of PlayStation Plus or any of the higher tiers. For August, so starting tomorrow, you'll get Yakuza. I never know how to pronounce it. I do apologize. Like a Dragon, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 Cross-Gen Deluxe Bundle, and Little Nightmares. Which, in my opinion, that is far better lineup than the games with gold. It's night and day, to say the least. But yeah, PlayStation Plus, those are available for all 3 tiers, Premium, Extra, and Essential, starting tomorrow. And if you're one of the higher tiers for Premium and Extra on PlayStation Plus, the Yakuza series. Yakuza series? Yakuza. I think Yakuza sounds right. Seems right. Coming to Game Pass. Coming to PlayStation Plus. Do apologize, me saying the wrong words. It happens all the time. It's way too often. So, beginning of August. Yeah, so in August. These are coming out, I think, in more than just August. So for August, we've got Yakuza Like a Dragon, Yakuza 0, Kiwami, and Kiwami 2 for August. And later this year, Yakuza 3 Remastered, Yakuza 4 Remastered, Yakuza 5 Remastered, and Yakuza 6, The Song of Life, later this year. So if you're a fan of this series, or if you ever want to try it out, well, now's your chance. On PlayStation Plus, if you have Premium or Extra subscription. Rumors. This might be it for the gaming news, but Grand Theft Auto 6 rumored. These are rumors. Again, rumors. Bloomberg's Jason Schreier. And a new report citing people familiar with the development of GTA 6 or whatever it'll be called. We don't think there's an exact. We don't actually know if it's gonna be called GTA 6. Could be called something else, but GTA 6 would make the most sense. But for the first time, we'll have a playable female protagonist. It'll have 2 protagonists. The woman is Latina and is one of 2 leading characters in a story that's influenced by the bank robbers, Bonnie and Clyde. So that could be interesting. Bonnie and Clyde scenario. Two protagonists. Well, GTA 5, you had 3 protagonists. God, what were their names? It was like Michael, Franklin, and Trevor? I'm probably wrong on all 3 of those, but yeah. GTA 6. These are rumored. This might not be true at all. This is according to report. And the developers are also being cautious as to not make jokes about marginalized groups. Rockstar has made several politically sensitive actions in recent years. They canceled a mode called Cops and Crooks in GTA Online and removing transphobic jokes from the next-gen version of GTA 5. They've also, Rockstar has worked to significantly narrow the gender pay gap between men and women. But yeah, other parts of the rumor for GTA 6 that is apparently set in a fictional version of Miami and its surrounding areas. The game apparently was set to be a much larger game. It was originally going to include a lot of areas of North and South America. And it was originally codenamed Project America, so I guess it was going to include a huge... Kind of like if you know Red Dead Redemption 2. It was kind of like the whole south... east of the U.S.? South Central? Southeast area of the U.S.? Red Dead Redemption 2? I'm assuming they were talking about doing a bigger area. But I guess they've decided to scope down to basically Miami and its surrounding... Again, this is all rumors. We'll see when it actually is officially unveiled. Miami and surrounding suburbs and whatnot. But also Rockstar apparently plans to continually update GTA 6 once it's released by adding new missions and cities on a regular basis, so expanding other places you can go to with new updates. Leadership hopes this will mean less crunch during final months before release, so some content might not come out until after the game is available. So hopefully be free DLC, but we'll see. Despite the cutbacks and the scale, the world remains large and has more interior locations than any previous GTA game. Industry analysts have previously expected the game to come out between April 2023 and March 2024. However, the sources aren't aware of any firm release date for GTA 6. And expect the game to be at least 2 years away. So if it's at least 2 years away, we're talking about sometime in 2024, maybe 2025, which I guess makes sense. They want to make sure the game is good enough, and they don't want to give any specific release window in case they need more time. Which I think is always a good thing. Hey, Ryza, how are you? Let's see. I think that's about it for the game. Yeah, no, that's about it for the game. Oh, I can't remember if I talked about this last week, but MetaQuest 2, its price has gone up by $100. $100. If you wanted the MetaQuest 2, it is now $100 more expensive than it was before. So I think that's it. Oh, and Verizon, they're going to be selling Xbox Series X and S consoles. Another place to get an Xbox Series X. I got an email from Verizon. Hey, yeah, I got a Verizon phone. Hey, yeah, if you want. It's specifically Xbox All Access, which basically, instead of buying the console, the $300 or $500 now, it's a monthly fee for 2 years with Game Pass Ultimate. Basically, you got the Series X with the Series X and 2 years of Game Pass Ultimate for I forget, is it $30 a month, $40 a month for 2 years? So. And again, I don't remember if I talked about this as well. This will probably be it for the gaming news. PlayStation VR, early look at the user experience. So, it's a bit to go through. But you'll have, there's going to be a camera on the VR, so you can kind of have how to explain it? So you kind of have augmented reality. That's what I'm like. What am I thinking about? Augmented reality. So I have a camera so you can actually see outside the headset as well. So yeah, see-through view. You can see your surroundings while wearing the headset with our new see-through feature. It comes in handy when you want to easily check where the controllers are in your room without taking the headset off. Also, it'll have it where it can actually look around with the camera and it can map out your room, so it can have the exact play area it should be in. So you're pretty autocorrected. Nissan. I mean, yeah, phone and it's autocorrecting. So you can do a customized play area for PSVR 2. We've been seeing so much on it. We don't have any firm release date or release window, but I'm gonna guess Q1 or Q2 of next year, of 2023. March, April, maybe release date window. I guess just a guess. Could be wrong. Could be the end of next year. And I'm not expecting $400 minimum looking at the specs. That we know. Minimum $400, probably $500. So, it's my guess. So anyways, that is about it for the latest gaming news. So if you've been watching this on YouTube, this gets live streamed every Monday unless something's going on. Twitch.tv/TrunksWD. And of course, if you enjoyed this on YouTube, as always, hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below. It does, the algorithm. You always hear about this. I should wait to the end of the recording and whatnot. So, if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you all so much for watching. See you all next time for another round of Game News Roundup.